Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John.
Now a man was ill, Lazarus, from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. Mary was the one who had anointed the Lord with perfumed oil and dried his feet with her hair. It was her brother Lazarus who was ill. The sisters of Lazarus sent word to Jesus, saying, "Master, the one you love is ill." When Jesus heard this, he said,
"This illness is not to end in death, but is for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified through it."
Take the stone away from out, from out. Take the stone away from out. Take the stone away from out, from out. Take the stone away from out.
Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that he was ill, he remained for 2 days in the place where he was. And after this he said to his disciples,
"Let us go back to Judea."
Rabbi, the Jews were just trying to stone you. Do you want to go back there?
Are there not 12 hours in a day? If one walks during the day, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if one walks at night, he stumbles, because the light is not in him.
He said this, and he told them,
Our friend Lazarus is asleep, but I am going to awaken him.
Master, if he is asleep, he will be saved.
Jesus was talking about his death, while they thought he meant ordinary sleep. Jesus said to them clearly,
Lazarus has died, and I am glad for you that I was not there, that you may believe. Let us go to him.
Thomas, called Didymus, said to his fellow disciples,
Let us go to die with him.
Take the stone away from out, from out. Take the stone away from out. Take the stone away from out, from out. Take the stone away from out.
When Jesus arrived, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb for 4 days. Now Bethany was near Jerusalem, only about 2 miles away. And many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to comfort them about their brother. When Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him, but Mary sat at home. Martha said to Jesus,
Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you.
Your brother will rise.
I know he will rise in the resurrection on the last day.
I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, even if he dies, will live. And everyone who lives and believes in me will never die. Do you believe this?
Yes, Lord. I've come to believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, the one who is coming into the world.
Take the stone away from out, from out. Take the stone away from out. Take the stone away from out, from out. Take the stone away from out.
when she had said this, she went and called her sister Mary secretly, saying,
The teacher is here and is asking for you.
As soon as she heard this, she rose quickly and went to him. For Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still where Martha had met him. So when the Jews were with her in the house comforting her, saw Mary get up quickly and go out, they followed her, presuming that she was going to the tomb to weep there. When Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet and said to him,
Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died.
Take the stone away, come out, come out. Take the stone away, come out. Take the stone away, come out, come out. Take the stone away, come out.
When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her weeping, he became perturbed and deeply troubled, and said,
Where have you laid him?
Sir, come and see.
and Jesus wept. This caused the Jews to say, See how he loved him? But some said,
Could not the one who opened the eyes of the blind man have done something so that this man would not have died?
Jesus, perturbed again, came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay across it.
Take away the stone.
Martha, the dead man's sister, said to him,
Lord, by now there will be a stench. He has been dead for 4 days.
Did I not tell you that if you believe, you will see the glory of God?
They took away the stone, and Jesus raised his eyes and said,
Father, I thank you for hearing me. I know that you always hear me. But because of the crowd here, I have said this, that they may believe that you sent me.
When he had said this, he cried out in a loud voice,
Lazarus, come out.
Take the stone away, come out, come out. Take the stone away, come out. Take the stone away, come out, come out. Take the stone away, come out. Take the stone away, come out, come out. Take the stone away, come out.
The dead man came out, tied hand and foot with burial bands, and his face was wrapped in a cloth.
Untie him and let him go.
Now many of the Jews who had come to Mary and seeing what he had done began to believe in him.
The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
You may be familiar with a story concerning a middle-aged man who was walking along a beach one particular morning, and as he moved along, he came across a metallic object that had washed ashore. And he picked it up, and as he cleaned it off, a genie popped out of the container. And the genie thanked the man for his release and granted him 3 wishes. Well, the man was thrilled at the power that he suddenly had, so after thinking for a moment, he said, I want a big, beautiful house on that cliff over there overlooking this beach. And poof, a mansion appeared right where he wanted it. And the man paused for another moment, then declared, I'd also like a fancy red sports car. And poof, a shiny new Maserati appeared right next to him. And finally, the man told the genie his 3rd wish. I want you to make me irresistible to women. And poof, the man changed into a box of chocolates. The moral is, be careful what you wish for. It may not turn out the way you expect. I'm sure that we'd all get excited if we had that kind of power to wish anything and just have it come true like that. I know many people dream of winning the lottery and wonder what they do with all that money. Yet beyond material things, many people would wish for more important things, like peace and harmony in the world, where everybody gets along, or relief from all pain or stress. And I know that many people would certainly wish that people they love or even themselves would not have to die, especially when it involves a violent death or something with much suffering, such as maybe a disease or accidents or other issues. Just a few days ago, I spoke with a man on the phone who informed me that his wife had a miscarriage this past week of a second twin, the first one having been miscarried 3 months before. And why such tragedies happen is only something that God fully understands. Yet, this couple's faith is so strong that they sense that God's comforting presence is right there in the midst of their darkness. Well, you know, the sisters Mary and Martha here in the Gospel also share their wishes with Jesus, although they believed it was really too late to do anything about them, saying, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died," right? And with all the healings they knew Jesus had done, well, they thought that they could heal Lazarus too. Well, however, they certainly didn't think Jesus could do much with Lazarus now that he was already dead. No one would have thought that someone could come back from the dead. Yet Jesus is always so good in the Gospels at surprising us and making possible what seemed impossible. And his question to the sisters is one that he continues to aim at all of us today. Do you believe that I am the resurrection and the life? In other words, do you still have hope that wishes can come true? That things may not be as bleak as they may seem? And that there's something more wonderful to come beyond the pain of a moment? Well, let's face it, none of us will ever fully understand suffering and death as to why we have it in this world. Yet, how we choose to look at such situations, either with faith and hope or with bitterness and dread, makes all the difference as to where we're headed down the road of life. Here's one example of looking the wrong way with bitterness. A priest friend of mine recently shared with me about a funeral that he conducted just a few weeks ago, and many people gathered at his church to grieve the death of a man in his 90s. Now, my friend didn't know this family very well since they weren't members of the church, although the man who died there had been very active for many years there. And as my friend began the opening rites, greeting the casket and the many family members near the entrance to the church, a couple of men in the family party began making mean comments to each other in low voices. And the voices got louder. And before long, they broke out into a full-fledged fight in the back of the church. And one young man was actually choking an older man in the group, and pushing and shoving between other members of the family got underway, so much so that the casket almost tipped over. And suddenly about 30 people were engaged in a free-for-all. Well, others there, including the funeral home workers and my priest friend, tried to restore order by pulling people off of other people and separating others. And the priest finally made his way to the altar area, ordered everybody to take their seats and stop all this. That the church is a house of God, it is a house of prayer, and it will be shown proper respect or this gathering will be over. Well, the family members and friends, and many of them were weeping by this time from the stress of this whole moment, slowly slithered into their pews, but the looks of hurt and anger on their faces made it very apparent that the remainder of this funeral was going to be anything but peaceful. As a matter of fact, later on during that funeral, 8 policemen came in the church and handcuffed the grandson of the deceased who had choked the older man in the beginning. The older man went to the hospital, by the way, and the police escorted this man out of the church. Wonderful funeral. Obviously, there were a lot of issues and dysfunction in this family tree. And instead of looking to Jesus as the resurrection and the life to find peace and hope in their lives and to settle the issues that have been lingering on among them in a very faithful, respectful way, chaos reigned instead. So much for respecting the dead. Huh? Even the church musicians there were weeping over this. They had never seen anything like that in the many years that they've been doing ministry. It's an event that no one gathered there that day would soon forget. Maybe they'll need counseling in the days to come. You see, when we dwell on our hurts or anger, instead of continuing to gaze at the loving face of Christ, we are setting ourselves up for a mighty big fall. Jesus never wants us to hold on to grudges or wallow in despair. Jesus wants us to let go of all that and just be at peace with him. That's what he wants more than anything for us. He's all about talking things out with those that we have disagreement with, or seeing the light of hope in the midst of whatever our dark times may be. And that is part of what it means to see Jesus as the resurrection and the life. If we look at others with hate, we will breed hate. That is inevitable. If we let anger and bitterness and disappointment burn in our hearts, that's going to eat us up, folks. And it's going to ruin peace for ourselves and peace for those around us. However, if we look at others with the eyes of Jesus, with love, with care, with respect, with understanding, wonderful miracles can unfold right before our eyes, just like Lazarus coming back from the dead. If we truly believe that Jesus is the resurrection and the life, then do our actions and words flow from that belief and reinforce that belief? Or do they betray an anger or evil that's still lurking in here that needs to be cleaned out? Spring cleaning, if you will. Jesus clearly teaches all throughout the Scriptures that we cannot love him fully if we don't love all others. It is impossible. We cannot find peace if we hang on to bitterness and dread, period. So do we choose to see the possibilities that Jesus brings to us? The one who came to fulfill our deepest wishes, our deepest longings in life? Or do we choose to place a huge stone over our life, like the tomb of Lazarus, blocking out the sun? S-U-N or S-O-N, take your pick. I will finish with how Jesus rolled the stone away in my own life. My story concerns my adoptive father, whose name was Bill. My father died when I was only 5.5 years old, in February of 1972. He was 1 month shy of his 36th birthday. And I was too young to understand what was going on at the time. Yet as I grew older, I not only came to appreciate the tremendous loving courage that my mother showed in raising 2 kids under the age of 10 on her own, but the hole in my heart grew over my father's death and absence. And I wondered how my life would be different if my father had lived. I wondered about all the joyful father-son activities that we could have shared together. I thought about the many words of wisdom that he could have given me of what it means to be a man, but it was not to be. Now, I don't remember very much about him. I knew that he would not be there for my later birthdays or see me play Little League Baseball, which I loved. He wouldn't be there for my first attempt at driving a car. He would miss my graduation from high school, my graduation from college, my first jobs, my first dates, successful and unsuccessful. And in 1999, he would not see me get ordained as a priest for this diocese. You know, back in the 1980s, there were nights as a teen and a young adult when I literally cried over his absence. And I thought to myself, why, God? Why would you take my father away? Don't you know how much I need him? And I was angry and sad, and I was lost for answers for many years. Then, in 1991, my father's older brother, my Uncle Bud Lake, died. And his funeral was at his family's Methodist church in the village of Kendall, which is west of Rochester near Lake Ontario. And as the minister spoke during the service about the many wonderful qualities that my Uncle Bud showed as a father figure, I felt emotions building up inside of me. And I wasn't sure what was going on. And after the service, his family greeted me in the basement hall, and as I embraced one of my cousins, I just lost it. I bawled like a baby, and I didn't know why. And in my embarrassment of it all, I just hurried out of the room, and I somehow ended upstairs in the minister's empty office to just be alone and hopefully compose myself to hopefully rejoin my family soon. And a few minutes later, the minister came up to see how I was doing, and I sniffled a bit, and I said, yeah, I don't know why I'm getting so emotional. I love my Uncle Bud, but I wasn't that close to him. I hadn't even seen the man in years. And then, as if an angel dropped a line out of heaven into the mouth of this man, he asked me, "Did you ever grieve for your father?" And my face just caved in, and the waters flowed like Niagara Falls from my eyes, and I said no. And I crumbled up on his lap. And you know, God answered my unspoken prayers that day. And it was the first time I ever really grieved over my father's death, which happened 19 years before that day. And how close I felt to my whole extended adoptive family that day. My father's death and absence all those years ended up teaching me the importance of looking to the light of Christ for the hope and healing that I needed, to rely more on God's love to see me through. And rarely have I felt Christ's peace as I did that day. I was a brand new man. Thank God. May this opportunity of Lent that our Lord is giving you and all of us not pass you by. For new hope, for new healing, for new life in your faith in Jesus Christ. May He guide you to a higher love for all people and a greater way of being than you ever thought possible. And as Jesus asks, do you believe this?